everyone. We're here for the Experience-Led Design with Jutro session. So if you're not here for that, you're in the wrong room. Joining us today, we have a really good panel to discuss this topic with you. We have Francois Gravel. Francois is the Vice President of Development and Integration of Application and Digital Solutions for Promutuel Insurance. We have Sai Giridharan. Did I say that right? Yeah. All right. Vice President, Head of Digital Transformation and Analytics with Heritage Insurance, followed by Andrea Anderson, who is our Global Head of User and Information Experience here at Guidewire. Kathy Newman, who is the Delivery Services Senior Business Architect for Digital, also with Guidewire. And then myself, John Stalnaker, I'm a Services Digital Lead at Guidewire. So we're going to kick off. I'm going to ask you guys to maybe tell us a little bit. We have two customers here that I want to tell us a little bit about your company. So we'll start off with you, Francois, at Promutuel.
So Promutuel Insurance is one of the biggest damage insurer in Quebec, the province of Quebec in Canada. So we are composed of 16 mutuals, and we are proud to celebrate our 170th birthday this year. This is quite amazing. And we are always focusing on our mutualism values and giving our members a great quality experience.
Perfect. And then we're going to hand it over to you, Sai. Would you mind?
Sure. Heritage Insurance is regional property insurance. We write in 16 states, mostly on the East Coast, and then a little bit on the West, California and Hawaii. We are roughly about $1.2 billion in revenue. We started in 2012. We're based out of Tampa, Florida. We operate 3 underwriting companies, but centrally vertically integrated claims, underwriting, and product management.
Perfect. Thank you. So just as a reminder, this session is covered under our safe harbor, as you guys are aware. A quick look at our agenda before we get going here. We'll start it off with you, Andre. The first question is going to be for you. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about why should we care about experience? Like, that's obviously the whole topic, but why experience?
Yeah, that keeps me awake day and night, believe me. So yeah, why should we care about experience? I think if you listen to the keynote this morning, Mary Beth told some great stories, right? And experience is a little different than digital experience. So let me tell you 2 recent stories. My sister, who lives in Germany, got a nice promo from an insurance company, and it said, well, buy house and rental and car insurance from us, and you'll get a cool discount, right? So I saw her struggling about 45 minutes with the UI. As a UI designer, right, UX designer, I always get curious, what's the problem? She had to find all kinds of paperwork, and it was horribly complicated. So finally, she hit the submit button, and guess what happens? We will call you back. This quote cannot be quoted online. So 2 days later, not 2 years, 2 days later, she heard back, and she basically had to deal with an insurance agent. On the other side, I asked one of my colleagues in the Palo Alto office the other day, in the San Mateo office, and she said, wow, I got this IoT device from my insurance company. I just did rental insurance for my property, and they sent me this IoT device to detect water leaks. And she said, it made me feel like they really cared about me. So that's the flip side, right? So today we'll talk a lot about user experience. I'm sure all of us have these stories. Digital experience is an important part, but it's really thinking about that what does the user need and how can we make them feel like we care?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we're gonna take a shift, and so as we have you guys here on stage from our customers, what does it mean? What does good experience mean to you? And I think we're going to kick off with you, Sai. What does good experience mean to you at Heritage?
Yeah. So when people talk about user experience, everybody quotes Amazon, right? It's the whole buy, track, notify when it's delivered, make it easy even to return the product. But there's a second aspect of customer experience too, which is the human aspect. There's a grocery store called Publix, which is in the southeast United States, Florida. It's pretty popular. We talked a lot about mission statements here, right? Their mission was where shopping is a pleasure. It's a grocery store, so I don't know whether it's a pleasure or not, but that's their mission statement. When you go there, and I go there pretty often, usually I get a text message on my way back from work, and my wife says, okay, here's the list for today, pick it up. And that list is never in the aisle order, for whatever reason, right? It's one in this aisle, next again, and then come back again. So the usual stuff I know where the produce is, I know where the milk is, I know where the bread is, and things like that. But every once in a while she'll say, okay, buy walnuts today, buy honey today. And I have no idea where these are. So one day she had walnuts, and I'm looking at the nuts section, and there's obviously there is no walnuts there. So there's like all of these staff there who walk and stock, and they're also looking at the customer. So she comes and says, can I help you find something? I'm looking for walnuts. So usually in any store you can ask, right, where can I find walnuts? And they'll say, oh, that's in aisle 3. In Publix, they don't do that. They actually walk you to the aisle. They pick up the stuff for you and say, this is what you wanted. So that's the difference. I think that's a human element. At Heritage, our customer service, our claim service, our sales, they all do an excellent job in making sure that we are excelling in the human aspect of it. From a system standpoint, we have sort of 2 customer segments, independent agents and the insureds. For independent agents, what we do is we try to make it as simple as possible, make it easy to do business with. And then for insureds, we dumb down. Insurance is complex, right? Dumb it down so much so that they can do what they want to do without having to call in.
Mm-hmm.
That's at a high level what we think about customer experience.
So same question over to you, Francois.
Yes. Pardon me. So for Promutuel, our president will say that we don't have clients, we have members, and this is very important for us to keep a difference in the member experience that we want to achieve, and the proximity and the complicity that we are able to build with our members have to be done for all of our canals. So if somebody come to our office, just call ourselves or on the digital platforms. They must all feel the same as a member, as part of Promutuel. This is very important for us, and we've built all of our digital assets with customer engage and quote and buy, and they are barely recognizable, as you can see. And this is a really good amount of work that has been done on the past years to make it happen.
Perfect. Andre, anything to add?
Yeah, first of all, great stories, right? I don't know if anyone knows Don Norman. Anyone heard of Don Norman before? Okay, good. If you haven't read his book of Design Over Everyday Things, I would encourage you to do it. Or if tonight you have a minute, look up Norman Doors. It's hilarious. But I had a fellowship with him, and what was great about him, he is constantly thinking about design. And I love this quote because when we do our job as designers, you don't feel it. You're just delighted by it. So good design is actually a lot harder to do than bad design. So that's my motto and my mantra whenever I work with my user experience designers, to create good user experiences.
Perfect, thank you. So we're going to shift a little bit. We're going to talk about, obviously the topic was experience-led design with Jutro. So Kathy, as we think about what we have had to change and shift at Guidewire to do these types of implementations, could you give us a little peek behind the scenes there?
Yeah, John, I certainly can. So I think that there's really been 3 things that we've been working on over the last couple of years that are going to really impact our customers in the digital world. And the first is APD, and I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it. We've talked a lot about APD, but it does help you visualize your product. And not only does it help you visualize your product, it also automatically generates your digital APIs. So this is a huge time saving in the digital world. The other thing that we're working on, we're investing a lot in our design system. You've heard Jutro a lot. You've heard that it's a design system. We're doing a lot of investing in our design system, not only with design tokens that will help our developers, but we're also investing in Figma and Jutro components that help us create prototypes that we can show to the users before we invest in a lot of development, and we can actually do user testing and get their feedback much faster than if we were to develop this first. And the third thing that we're doing in the digital practice, we really realized our methodology was backwards. It's customers like these that help us realize that it is a digital first world, and we needed to think digital first. So we changed our methodology a little bit to really move in with the digital first, and we've added experienced business architects and UX designers to our implementation teams so that we can have the domain expertise along with the design and customer experience as we move into inception. And the designers on the team really add a whole new dimension. Not only are they aware of user design and best concepts and accessibility, they also know our Jutro platform. So that's a huge step up for our getting ready for our development. The other thing that we are doing is really taking the time to understand the customer's needs, what they want, what they value, what's accessible and what's not. And when you combine all these tools, you're going to find that our implementations are going much faster.
Perfect, thank you. So, Cy and Francois, obviously you guys have done projects and you've experienced this experience-led design approach. So I'm wondering, what was your experience? Francois is an upgrade from Mutual from Angular to React, and then Cy was more of a greenfield implementation with Heritage. Would you mind give us a little sneak peek into what your experience was in working with us in that approach?
Yes, and to be honest, when we started the project, we had some concerns about our digital assets and what we've built so far. And we have some concern because we knew that by using the new platform, the new Jutro platform, we will have to standardize a lot. And we were thinking that maybe we will lose a lot of our personalization that we've made so far. And the Guidewire teams were very listening to us, and they understood what we wanted to do and that we wanted to have the lift and shift approach. And when you look at the digital platform, it was more of a rework. So this was the concern. And in the inception phase, it was really eye-opening for everybody because the Guidewire team was really listening. And we used Figma mockups, and it helps a lot to see what we had before and what we should expect with the mockups that have been built by the UI designer from Guidewire. And as you can see, there is not so much difference. And because of this, it was the concern that we had by the end of the inception was just vanished. So as you see now is that the development phase is now finished. We are in the stabilization period of our upgrade project. And the end results is on the right. So we're really pretty pleased with what we have so far. And it's now standardized with Jutro and kind of 90% standardized with Jutro. And another thing that was another benefit that we had with this journey is that we've built from the past 5 years or all of our digital solutions. So there's our small hiccups, small little things that was different, and by rebuilding all of the solutions, we were able to standardize everything in the process. So it was great.
Perfect, thank you. Over to you.
So at Heritage, we redid our agent portal, which is our user experience for independent agents, a few years back. We had extensive sort of dialogues with the agents on what they wanted with the sales team. The idea behind it was from a quote to buy aspect of it. get the agent the most accurate price and the eligibility as quickly as possible. Right? That was the goal. Now that varies based on markets. For certain markets, you get it close enough. Certain markets, you want it absolutely close to the penny. So again, but the idea was that get them eligibility and pricing as quickly as possible, and we were able to do that just with one screen. You answer the questions, and you immediately get like default coverages and the prices right after that. And it's a wizard-based flow, and all of the companies do that, right? It's a wizard-based flow. And we never make the agent traverse back in the wizard. Now, what does that mean is, let's say you're on step 3 and you're making a selection. You cannot do that because you chose something else on step 2, which means you'll have to go back, right? So that needed some thought, working with our product team to make sure all of them, the correlated sort of questions are all together. So with Guidewire, we wanted the exact same user experience to avoid agent disruption while we are making the system transformation. That came with some challenges, right? I think because we wanted to, we cannot use the producer engage out-of-the-box capabilities, or very limited. But we worked with the Guidewire team. There was learning experience both on our sides as well as the Guidewire team side as well. And I'm sure Kathy has more color to add there, but I think we're making progress building that out with the producer engage. When things are more out of the box, like our customer engage and vendor engage, I think those go relatively quickly, because there we said, okay, we can go with whatever out of the box is with minimum configuration changes. Perfect.
So obviously speed to market is hugely important, right? And so as we've talked about Jutro in the context of the design system for a couple of years now, we're now talking about Jutro digital platform, but what is it about the design system that helps accelerate, that makes it so powerful?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So when I came here about 3 years ago, I was told, oh, these digital projects, 30% of the time is spent on theming, and then we have all this custom stuff we're making, and it's very big projects, and they're very hard to upgrade. And I had come off from a company that had a design system, right? So I took over the design system here. If you have never worked with a design system, think of it as reusable building blocks for the user experience, really. So it consists of components, right? Small things like buttons and drop downs and text fields, right? That are pretty standard, actually. What becomes really interesting for our industry is, right, insurance has a number of very common user interaction patterns. Chances are when you sell any sort of vehicle experience, or insurance experience, right, you're probably going to have a driver and maybe a vehicle, right? Probably comes to mind. So what we're working on with my team is we're trying to make these patterns so easy for you to consume. You can customize them, right? But our hope is that we can accelerate your building out of the insurance experiences that you want to have. Because I know you probably don't have huge UX teams. I don't have one. You probably don't have hordes of UI developers that could do custom, wonderful, beautiful design and development for you, right? So this is hard work. And so what we're trying to do is really, with these UI components, patterns, and now templates on the Jutro platform, which are basically application examples, you could call them, we want to make that work a lot easier for you. And as Cassie said, we're already seeing some of that actually panning out in projects. All right, I mentioned theming, right, as being one of these things, and I know you all have your own brands, and somebody thought a lot about your brand, right? Either your marketing people, or maybe you hired an agency. I know some of our customers are selling various brands, so they might have a similar user experience, right? But you might do business as various brands, right? So one of the key neat things about a design system is what we call the foundation, right? So things like color, font size. Believe it or not, we worry about those little round corners or square corners, right? That's a design thing, makes a big difference, right? Which text should be bold, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these decisions, and Jason, who is in the audience, says we make a lot of these decisions for you because we're design experts, right? So we can help you with that. So that you don't have to make them. So you can map your brand basically to our design system, and it's not snap your finger, it comes out, but it gets pretty close then, and I think that's what we did with Promoshwell as well, right? So they had a design system, we were able to map it to ours really, really quickly and leverage that. Yeah. So lastly, benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So people always ask me, well, cost of UX so high, right? And then what are you going to get from it? So design systems have actually been around for a while, and some of the numbers are actually quite stunning. So developer experience and efficiency is huge, right? No developer likes fiddling with a pixel. In fact, most of them really don't like it. Reduction in managed costs as far as the future goes. So let's say your design agency tries to change the primary color, right? Easy as a design token. Faster design work, right? So we take a lot of that burden off you. And then lastly, not only faster design to market, but nothing annoys us more as people if we have an inconsistent user experience, if it's difficult to use, right? So a design system brings a lot of those practices to you for free.
Thank you. And Sai, you mentioned Amazon as a example of, what we think of as a good digital experience. And I know that, Francois, you mentioned that you have members, right? So how do you make sure that you're creating that good experience for your users? How do you continuously improve on that?
Yes. So I will be using maybe too many buzzwords there, but those are still important. So it's really important for sure to have everybody working together. It's a must, and it's something that we do for so long now. So the UX designer, the marketing teams, the insurance expert with our IT department, and also it's really important for everybody to know what's the end result that we want to achieve early on by the design thinking process, or making up the Figma mockups that we use. It was really important. And for the continuous improvement that we have to face, for sure, all of the members will not take the phone and call you every time they are not happy with your website, for sure. So you need all of the analytics and data to be able to see through their experience and to change and to make those continuous improvement. But what do you do when you are building up a new functionality that is not yet open to the public? So then we use user groups and surveys, and you can see on the screen that the little car selector, incident selector, was built from comments on one of your user groups.
Perfect, thank you. And Sai, so similarly, how do you measure that effectiveness? How are you at Heritage measuring that type of effectiveness of the experience?
Yeah, so very similar to what Francois said, right? Our sales and marketing team runs agency councils where they're run by the agent portals, the changes that we're planning with them. Mm-hmm. We hear back. Our independent agent channel, there's a lot of variability, right? We have small independent agents with a staff of 3-4. We have large wholesalers, and we have large national auto carriers who we partner with for the home product. And the demands for each of these different types of independent agents are different, right? A call center operated large monoline carrier will have a completely different set of requirements. They want something that's very repeatable, doesn't matter, it's all documented. That's how they run their operations. Whereas a smaller independent agent might say, okay, I want something that makes sense to me. This is how I run it. So those agency councils are valuable feedback when they come in. And there's a lot of good discussions that happen there. And that's one way that we kind of see what changes are needed and things like that. Again, Francois mentioned the need for data and analytics. So we do measure for a quote to buy if the quotes are getting dropped off, right? At this time, it's a hypothesis. So if the quote is getting dropped off when the price is being shown, the hypothesis is, the price is probably too high. But there's nothing really concrete in terms of data. That it's all hypothesis based. Where we would like to do is have like little micro interactions in these pages, right? So where somebody can easily give the feedback, a little thumbs up, a thumbs down on fields and things like that. We also want to be able to be measuring how are tenured users using this versus brand new users, right? So is there a learning curve involved? Things like that. And then you look at the traditional sort of metrics, the quote volume, your conversion ratios, things like that. Obviously, those are at the tail end, but that also is a reflection of how well the UX is performing, among other things, obviously. The conversion is not just going to be UX-based, it's a lot more than that. But it does play a part. So all of that come into play. From a customer insured facing ones, we measure basic sort of metrics, right? How many payments are going through the portal versus how many are getting called in. The percentage, the ratio changes and things like that. So all of that is what goes in and try to measure. And are we there today? Probably not, but those are the things that we're trying to build with our Guidewire transformation.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so now we're going to open it up to you guys, the audience. We have time for some Q&A. There are mics that are being carried around, so if you have a question for anyone on our panel, feel free to raise your hand and a mic will come to you. And just please name the person that you're addressing the question to.
Chris Stewart with Berkeley, and our portal is actually Angular, and we're looking at React as well. So for Francois, I'm just curious about can you dig in a little bit more about that process? I have some heartburn thinking about throwing away 4 years of effort on the portal we've currently built and potentially embracing something new. So talk to us, what was going on in your mind in that thought process?
So this was for sure the concern at the beginning of the project, and but mostly a lot of the little things that we had to face. For sure, there was compromise to be done with both teams. Those kind of things happens, but there was some parts that was completely customized and personalized, like the authentication that we've made was built within the customer engage. That was a really a bad design decision or architect decision. So we had going to the cloud to just remove the authentication from the space there. And but in the end, it's for the greater good. So it was mostly smaller things that couldn't be done. And one of the latest that I heard of was a car selector that we customized by ourselves, and we decided to make something with the component of Jutro that was available. And the Guidewire teams are still working with Jutro to add up more components from React. So we are hoping also in the future it will be just better and better.
Francois, you said you had to pull out your authentication piece. Did you have to go to like a single sign-on using the IDP groups, or what was that you had to change?
Sorry, can you
your authentication process? Did you have to go to SSO using the IDP groups for the cloud, or what did you have to do?
I'm not sure I could answer this one. It's we had to separate. We use Auth0, and this shouldn't be put into the cloud of Guidewire. So we had to put this aside, and we push it into the cloud of Auth0, and we just made the integration with both of them.
When you go to the cloud, your authentication comes out of Exchange. So the customer really has to do the authentication piece.
Perfect. I think we had another question over here.
Yeah, I have two questions for Sai. First one is, I just noticed in the mock-ups that showed on the slide that there were some additional navigation buttons in the wizard, like save for later. I was just wondering what drove those changes and if there are any challenges implementing that.
So as I said, right, our agent portal, we wanted to mimic our existing so that the disruption to the agents are minimized. The save for later is something that our agents had asked for, because they'll be in the middle of a quote and then they get a phone call and they have to go look at something else, and that's what that save for later is, so that you're saving the draft of the code. You haven't completed the quote yet, but then you can pick it up and continue once they drop off the call. So that's the idea behind it.
And then my second question was about the measurement. Do you guys use anything like Google Analytics? Or?
Not today, no, we're not.
Thank you.
Jutro does come with some hooks for analytics, and it's going to really help you with your analytics. And we're really looking to get all of our customers to be able to measure things. It's really important moving forward.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Yep. So a question for anyone to answer. So you guys mentioned there is analytics that we can capture, but is there co-browsing available? And if it is not right now, is there plans for enabling co-browsing?
There are third-party tools that we're talking about. There are people in the audience who might want to answer that question, I think. I was really looking for Thiru. Is he still here? Oh, he's here. He's standing up. He's looking for a mic.
You asked for the answer, Kathy, right on the fly, right here. Okay, sure. So yeah, so co-browsing. This is something we're basically expecting you to use a third-party vendor to integrate with it and to do this, because we don't want to build that natively. It just doesn't add a lot of value to the product itself. But certainly that's something you can enable within the product. Meaning using the vendors, right? So.
But will that be coming up as an app?
We currently don't have any plans around that, but certainly, if there is a lot of demand, certainly we can give it a look. Actually.
Hi, Francois. Just one more question. So this is considering Angular to Jutro is kind of a re-implementation. So how did you find aligning the end-to-end business process into the design, considering the upgrade timelines, which is very short?
Oh, I didn't understand my name at at the beginning, sorry. So mostly it was the work have been done by Guidewires, the Guidewire team. So the change from Angular to Jutro with React, if I understand the questions, we didn't see much of the change technically. We know that we use 90% of the solution right now is built on Jutro, and there's 10% that are still personalized, that we customize codes to make it happen.
And let me add on to that. So I mentioned the design system, right? So I inherited the Angular Xengage when I got here, and we had to convert it off Angular fairly quickly because, as you know, the release we were on was no longer maintained, right? So the design system helped us with that, right? And that same benefit comes to you, right? So all the components, all the UI bits and pieces are available in this mysterious thing called Figma. If you ask a designer, they know what that is. So we took and Promotel had done a great job in writing use cases, which was super helpful. So they had given us the screen mock-ups and everything. So my designers went in, took that design and then quote-unquote Jutrified it with the design system, right? Then we ran it, I think, by a couple of you users. I know marketing wanted to make sure the marketing brand is there. We found a few accessibility issues, right? So in a way, yes, it was a re-implementation, but we also found we were actually able to smooth a lot of edges off the current experience. And then because we did a lot of the heavy lifting in the design phase, when development came along, right, from Figma you can actually generate fairly good development specs for the UI developers, right? And we reused, of course, the Edge APIs. So there was, I think, no major redo of the Edge APIs, right? Those don't change in the UI trajectory to React.
Yes, I have a question. I think Kathy had mentioned using designers and putting them on the product teams themselves at one point. Did you find that there's work there for them to be dedicated versus like a shared service for multiple product teams?
I think that it's really going to be driven by the customer, right? We've done both successfully. If the customer is fine working off a library of components, it's easy to have a scope document that lists all the components that you're going to use in your application. What that doesn't give you is every page to visualize before it's developed. So different customers have different needs, and you can do it either way. I still don't think it's 100% of the project, right? We tend to front load the designers and try to get most of the design work, and you will never be able to do all the pages in all the states. Just trying to do that would just be crazy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and since I run both the application design teams and the digital design teams, right? So for some of the applications, like for example, I have a designer on APD. That is heavy stuff, right? Very detailed. So that designer would be on that project exclusively, while perhaps somebody that's doing Guidewire homepage, right, the page for the little tiles, also then has room to do something else. But it also helps if the designer has an understanding of the domain. If they're brand new and kind of more generic designer, it just takes time to get up to speed on the insurance domain.
Yeah, my question is to Frankash. It's basically the same thing, from AngularJS to the React, the way that you guys have done some kind of an assessment, right? So from on-premise to the Guidewire Cloud, when you are actually moving on, so what kind of challenges that you probably may expect from the Jutro? Eventually, Guidewire is going to stop the support of Jutro on-premise at one point of time, right? So the implementation that you continue to do on Jutro, and to take this application from on-premise to the cloud, do you guys have done any kind of assessments, or do you see any kind of the challenges?
So you're asking what are the challenges of going from AngularJS to a cloud Jutro?
No. From the on-premise Jutro, I believe you guys are already in a Jutro on-premise?
We have Jutro on-prem. Yeah.
On-prem,
we have
right?
customers that have Jutro on-prem.
Right, so
yes.
to take this from on-premise to the cloud at one point of time, so what kind of the challenges that you probably foresee with the Jutro framework? Have you guys done any analysis around that?
Yeah, so good question. So there's a couple of very confusing things going on right now. So Jutro, the design system, right, is actually totally agnostic of the backend technology. You can use it actually totally without Guidewire if you wanted to. Don't tell anyone that, but it would work, right? So it's a design system. So it's a basically components, patterns, templates, right, that you can reuse. It's a zip file we ship to you, to your designers, right? So you have it if you have Xengage. So what we did is, though, we had to convert the self-managed version of Xengage, just like the cloud version of Xengage, to Jutro, right? So basically, same design system. It's not any different. There's a couple of custom components for digital, but that doesn't matter. So from a design system perspective, it's stable, right? And now some customers might go with us on the EA journey, right? It's using the same design system. So that's the nice thing. It's in a way timeless. And I always say I have various masters for my design system, right? Because even internally we use it, right? Yeah, so separate that, and then the Jutro platform, which was the announcement this morning, which was a little confusing, is really an evolution, if you will, of the Xengage platform, because Xengage originally, as many of you know, was never made as a cloud solution, right? So we needed to evolve that to something that's cloud native, and that's really what the digital platform, the Jutro digital platform is, and it includes the design system. Still the React design system hasn't changed. We'll evolve it. We'll make it better. We'll add more patterns. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. We are not going to stop supporting the self-managed Xengage. It's not going to evolve as much as the cloud version is, but we're not going to stop supporting it. Just wanted to make that clear. We're not going to stop supporting it.
I think there's a couple of things that we wanted to share as well. Andrea, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a design team, or if you're working with a consultancy that has a design team, we did actually launch a course now for designing with Jutro. I know some of you have your own design teams. Feel free to scan it at QR code or come see me. It's open as part of your education offering, I guess. So we teach that every 3 months.
It's not part of the subscription, I believe.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know
it's
how
not.
that works.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But yes, there is a course. We are actively doing it as we speak.
Yep.
Andrea, one thing on that. I do want to say you can't let the designers design your entire application without business input. Yes. And it's really important to make sure that there's a team of people that review the designs, the developer, the designer, and the business input.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We teach them that in the design class too. I have a whole section on business, believe it or not. And another thing we're doing, so I'm also, as the head of UX, in charge of accessibility across our application. So this means people with various abilities can use our products, and I'm pretty proud and very concerned about that day and night. So we're actually doing a developer webinar. I know I do a lot of outreach to our own developers. So any of your developers, regardless if they're Gosu or Jutro or whatever else they might be writing in, is interested in accessibility and what we as developers should be mindful of, I would invite you to the seminar that we're doing through the developer community.
Perfect. Thank you. With that, I want to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for being here together. It makes a great event. So thank you all.